Hello. Today I will be conducting a comparative analysis on the piece created under the rule of Darius the Great and the piece created by Luba Lukova. The first piece I will be analyzing is titled the Processional Frieze and is located in Persepolis, Iran. The second piece is titled Here We Are and is currently on display in the art gallery on Susquehanna's campus. The Processional Frieze is located in Persepolis, Iran, as mentioned previously. At the time of its creation, however, this was known as the Persian Empire. It is located on the terrace of the Apadana, which is also known as the audience hall, as shown here. This was a place where the ruler would invite his people to come together and hold celebrations in harmony. When looking at this high relief sculpture, we see that it is very detailed. Now, this is only a detail shot of the full piece, so we only see about 5 men here, but there are more. They all seem to be clothed, and they all have beards, and each of them are carrying a different object. Not to mention that the first 2 figures show twisted perspective, meaning that their heads are looking off to the side while their torsos remain facing the viewer. The processional frieze was created in roughly 521 to 465 BCE under the rule of the conquerors Darius the Great and his son Xerxes the Great. Now, these rulers were known for their tolerance of different religions and cultures, and this is very evident in this high relief sculpture. The Persian Empire ruled over 23 different nations with 3 separate languages overall. This piece shows nobles, dignitaries, and representatives from each of these 23 nations that Persians had control over. They are all carrying different gifts and wearing different clothes that are specific to their cultures. The Persians are the ones wearing the pleated skirts, while the Madhyas are wearing rounded hats. Despite dressing differently, these citizens are all the same height, and they are all holding on to each other as if they are dependent on one another. The Persian rulers showed equality and acceptance, and this piece is the perfect representation of that. This second piece is titled Here We Are, and it is a poster designed by Luba Lukova in 2013. Lukova grew up in Bulgaria, so she was surrounded by Russian propaganda posters at a very young age. These propaganda posters were meant to display governmental power and authority, and I think Lukova's work does a great job at contradicting those attempts. This piece holds a very powerful message, even though there are no figures or words displayed. I think it's also important to note that this piece has been shown in many different galleries all around the world, and this just adds to her piece because the topic is relevant not just in one specific country, but in many different countries. It's quite relevant for a lot of different people. Unlike in the processional frieze, this piece does not have as much detail. It is made from very simple shapes, and it gets the point across very easily. And we see how that simple rectangle and circle are cut up to make a slightly more complicated shape, being the woman's shoe. And all the objects that the viewer is supposed to focus on are in black and white, while the background is orange, so that these black and white shapes can be pushed to the front easily, and they are brought to the viewer's attention. At first glance, this looks like instructions you would receive in an elementary school for arts and crafts. I interpret this as a mockery of politics and how childish politicians can get. Here's a sample of what I mean when I say craft instructions. Now, these instructions are demonstrating how to easily manipulate a ball and chain into a fashionable shoe. This is a comment on women's rights. Women are still fighting for equal rights such as equal pay or having issues with the glass ceiling, which, if you're unaware, the glass ceiling is a system that prevents women from moving up into higher positions even though they seem obtainable. So it prevents women from going from just a regular associate employee to maybe a manager, or higher. This topic of gender inequality is extremely relevant for today's society. And this piece shows how society can manipulate our interpretations of these issues in order to make them feel more acceptable, or in this case, comfortable. It seems like all humans are equal when there are still underlying moments of suppression between genders. This piece shows how women have made progress in obtaining equal rights, however, we still don't have complete equality, only a lessening in severity. The grand underlying theme between both these pieces is the portrayal of equality, however, the equality is shown in very different ways. When looking at the Processional Frieze, it's talking more about cultural equality. We see 23 different nations coming together under one ruler. We see acceptance of different religions. This is a form of true acceptance. These cultures and religions and these languages are being brought together peacefully by these rulers, Darius the Great and Xerxes the Great, and even before them, Cyrus the Great. These rulers are truly accommodating to their people and showing them equality. Now, in Here We Are discussing gender equality and how it wasn't truly equality after all, but instead just an illusion. Luba Lukova shows this by taking this object of suppression, this ball and chain, and making it into fashionable clothing. Women do not have equal rights, and there are many hidden ways that we are deprived and stopped of obtaining this ideal of equality. So, although these pieces are both showing ideas of equality, one displays the government disseminating this acceptance across the region, while the other is making commentary on how the government has manipulated this sense of equality to bring ease to the women fighting for their rights. While showing two very different aspects of equality, they both hold a similar sense of importance. One showing how a ruler has managed to bring peace and harmony to his people, while the other shows the importance of earning true equality between genders in our current society.